What if I told you the man who brokered peace in the Middle East, eradicated diseases that plagued millions, and redefined what it means to be a leader, grew up in a town smaller than your local mall? Meet Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer who went on to change the world. Born on October 1st, 1924 in Plains, Georgia, Carter lived a life that would surprise even the most seasoned historians. A man who rose from the humblest of beginnings, son of a peanut farmer and a nurse, into a global force for peace, justice, and humanitarianism. But how did this small-town boy rise to become the 39th President of the United States, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and one of the most respected former presidents in history? Well, it wasn't by following the ordinary path. Jimmy Carter was a visionary, a man who not only dared to challenge the status quo, but also succeeded in transforming the world around him. From his childhood, Carter's commitment to fairness was clear, as he formed lasting bonds with black children on his father's farm during a time of strict segregation. This early foundation in equality would go on to guide his personal and political life. After his graduation from the U.S. Naval Academy, Carter's naval career brought him across the world, but his heart remained in Plains, where he would later revive his family's struggling peanut farm and enter the political arena. In Georgia, he fought for civil rights during one of the most transformative times in the South. His rise from Georgia state senator to governor set the stage for a presidential campaign that would captivate the country. As an outsider to Washington politics, Carter's 1976 election was heralded as a new hope for the nation, a promise to bring integrity and change to a political system reeling from scandal. Carter's presidency was not without its challenges, but it was marked by landmark achievements that still resonate today. The Camp David Accords, the Panama Canal treaties, and the creation of new federal agencies that continue to shape America. But even after leaving office, Carter's impact only grew. His post-presidency work through the Carter Center became a blueprint for how former leaders can continue to serve humanity, advancing human rights, building peace, and eradicating diseases like guinea worm and river blindness. His tireless efforts earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. A lover of books and poetry, a gifted woodworker, and a fierce advocate for Habitat for Humanity, Carter proved that a life dedicated to service could extend far beyond the White House. Even in his 90s, he continued to inspire with his humility and devotion to making the world a better place. From Plains to the global stage, Jimmy Carter's life is a testament to resilience, service, and the unyielding belief that one person, no matter where they come from, can truly make a difference. About his personal life. Jimmy Carter's personal life was as multifaceted and remarkable as his presidency, filled with passions, friendships, and a deep commitment to his faith and family. A man of many hobbies, he spent his free time painting, fly fishing, woodworking, cycling, playing tennis, and skiing. But he also had a poetic side, particularly drawn to the works of Dylan Thomas. In fact, during a state visit to the UK in 1977, Carter even suggested that Thomas deserve a memorial in Poets' Corner at Westminster Abbey, an idea that became a reality in 1982. Beyond the arts, his friendships were equally noteworthy. One of his most famous friendships was with the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. Carter and his wife, Rosalynn, met Elvis in 1973, just before one of his performances in Atlanta, and remained in touch with him until Presley's tragic death in 1977. Carter fondly remembered a bizarre phone call from Elvis just months before, asking for help with a pardon for a friend's legal troubles, a conversation that was clouded by Presley's state under the influence of barbiturates. Family was always at the heart of Carter's life. Born into a family with a legacy of personal and political ties, including distant connections to Motown legend Berry Gordy, he grew up with 3 siblings, all of whom, sadly, died from pancreatic cancer. He married his beloved Rosalynn in 1946, and together, they raised 3 sons and a daughter. Their marriage, lasting over 7 decades, became a model of enduring partnership, with Rosalynn offering unwavering support and guidance, especially after the end of his presidency. In fact, Carter once said that as long as Rosalynn was in the world, he knew someone always loved and supported him. Their bond became legendary, marking a milestone in 2019 as the longest-wed presidential couple, surpassing George and Barbara Bush. But Carter's life wasn't just about family and friendships. It was also defined by his deeply held beliefs. A committed evangelical Christian from an early age, Carter taught Sunday school in his hometown of Plains, Georgia, and his faith became a central part of his political identity. He was the first U.S. president to openly embrace the term "born again," a phrase he popularized during his 1976 campaign. As president, his faith guided him, and he was known for praying several times a day. He often said that Jesus was the driving force of his life, and once recalled a sermon that asked, "If you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you?" Carter's beliefs weren't without controversy, particularly within his church. In 2000, he made headlines when he renounced his membership with the Southern Baptist Convention after it decided to prevent women from becoming pastors. His stance on women's equality in the church remained strong, and he later joined the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship. As much as his faith shaped his presidency, it also shaped his decisions and relationships. His staunch support for the Equal Rights Amendment, which called for equal rights for women, was one of the many ways his principles influenced the nation's politics, even contributing to the rise of the Christian right. Through it all, he remained a man of integrity, a devoted husband and father, and a believer in using his influence to make the world a better place. About professional career. Jimmy Carter's early career is nothing short of a journey filled with twists, turns, and personal growth, often involving high stakes and deep commitment to his country. Let's rewind to the late 40s. Carter, fresh out of the Naval Academy, was diving straight into life in the U.S. Navy. From Virginia to Hawaii, Connecticut to New York, he moved with his wife, Rosalynn, and their young children while being deployed in both the Atlantic and Pacific fleets. In 1948, Carter embarked on a career-defining decision, choosing to pursue submarine duty. By 1949, he was already serving aboard the USS Pomfret, where his crew navigated the complexities of a simulated war patrol in the Western Pacific. The thrill of the deep was just beginning, and it didn't stop there. His career took a sharper turn in 1951 when he joined the USS K-1, the first of its kind, a diesel/electric submarine. He quickly rose through the ranks and found himself in several leadership positions, eventually qualifying for command. But it wasn't just about the subs and the deep blue sea. In 1952, he found himself on a new mission, nuclear power. Enter Captain Hyman G. Rickover, the man who would become Carter's mentor and a crucial influence on his life. Under Rickover's demanding mentorship, he was thrust into the fledgling nuclear submarine program, even working at the Atomic Energy Commission's Naval Reactors Branch in Washington, D.C. There, he faced a defining moment in 1952, leading a U.S. team to help shut down a malfunctioning reactor at Chalk River, Canada. The exposure was minimal, but the experience had a lasting impact. In fact, Carter later credited this moment with shaping his views on atomic energy during his presidency. However, in 1953, after his father passed away, he made a hard decision. He left the Navy to take over the family peanut farm. The transition was not smooth. The Carters faced a failed first harvest and a mountain of debt. Yet his determination turned things around, and with Rosalynn managing the books, they made the business successful. But the future called, and it was political. In 1962, he launched his political career by running for Georgia's state senate. His opponent, Homer Moore, tried to pull a fast one with fraudulent votes, but Carter wasn't having it. He fought back, and when the election was rerun, Carter emerged victorious. He served in the state senate from 1963 to 1967, championing the cause of racial integration and pushing for education reforms. In 1966, Carter made an attempt at the governor's office, running against the segregationist Lester Maddox. While he didn't win, Carter's third-place finish forced a runoff, which ultimately allowed Maddox to secure the governorship. Despite this setback, he pressed on. In 1970, he ran again for governor. This time, his campaign was more modern, strategic, calculated, and laser-focused. He even garnered the attention of both black voters and segregationists, though his stance on racism would evolve as his career progressed. This time, Carter won the Democratic primary, eventually securing the governorship in the general election. As governor, his priorities shifted. He shocked the state by declaring in his inaugural speech, The time for racial discrimination is over, a bold statement that alienated many of his old supporters but endeared him to those who were looking for change. He reorganized the state government, pushed for progressive education policies, and worked toward greater equality. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some of his decisions, like vetoing a dam project, made waves. Yet, through it all, Carter's rise was undeniable. With his eyes set on the presidency, he began positioning himself for a run. By 1972, his name was circulating on the national stage. And though the 1972 Democratic National Convention didn't go his way, Carter's determination paid off, and he entered the race for president in 1976. From submarines to peanuts, from state politics to national aspirations, Carter's early career set the stage for the eventual rise of the 39th President of the United States. What's most striking about his story is his ability to adapt, to change, and to grow in the face of challenges, an unwavering commitment that would define his political journey for decades to come. Carter's outsider persona was crucial in the aftermath of Watergate, as voters were eager for a leader who wasn't tied to Washington's political establishment. He won key primaries and secured the Democratic nomination by appealing to both conservative Christian voters in the North and moderates in the South. His rise was also facilitated by favorable media coverage, which helped him gain national recognition. Despite a tight race, Carter triumphed over incumbent Republican President Gerald Ford in the November election. His victory was due in part to his strong support among black voters, particularly in swing states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. He won with 50.1% of the popular vote and 297 electoral votes, while Ford garnered 48% of the popular vote and 240 electoral votes. In his transition to the presidency, Carter began planning for his administration, making strategic appointments and working to avoid potential conflicts of interest. His first acts as president included issuing an executive order granting amnesty to Vietnam War-era draft evaders and prioritizing energy reform amid the ongoing energy crisis. His presidency was marked by both achievements and challenges. He brokered peace in the Middle East through the Camp David Accords, returned the Panama Canal to Panama, and signed the SALT II nuclear arms treaty with the Soviet Union. However, his term was also plagued by economic struggles including stagflation, a high inflation rate, and the 1979 energy crisis, all of which contributed to his eventual loss to Ronald Reagan in the 1980 election. Despite the challenges, his presidency set the stage for future transitions by emphasizing the importance of planning and preparedness. His commitment to energy reform and social justice, alongside his efforts to navigate complex global and domestic issues, left a lasting impact on the nation's history. His presidency stands as a testament to ambition, compromise, and complexity, defined by a mix of bold reforms and daunting challenges. Early in his tenure, Carter set his sights on reshaping the airline industry, appointing Alfred E. Kahn to lead the Civil Aeronautics Board. This decision paved the way for the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, a landmark move that dismantled government controls over fares, routes, and market entry. By unleashing market forces while maintaining safety oversight under the Federal Aviation Administration, Carter not only revolutionized air travel, but also inspired innovation in other industries, including a revival of home brewing after decades of Prohibition-era restrictions. Meanwhile, America's auto industry faced a crisis as Chrysler teetered on the brink of collapse. His administration orchestrated a lifeline through the Chrysler Corporation Loan Guarantee Act of 1979, securing $3.5 billion in aid. The bailout came with tough conditions, including wage freezes and loan guarantees, but ultimately saved thousands of jobs, demonstrating Carter's ability to blend economic pragmatism with corporate accountability. His vision extended to healthcare reform, though his ambitious efforts for universal coverage were stymied by political resistance. Proposals for cost controls and insurance-based models struggled to gain traction, even with bipartisan negotiation. Yet, he achieved a significant victory with the Mental Health Systems Act of 1980, championing community-based care, though much of this progress was later undone under Reagan's administration. True to his campaign promises, he prioritized education, establishing the Department of Education as a cabinet-level agency in 1979. This move streamlined federal oversight and underscored the importance of education in national policy. Expanding the Head Start program and funding school construction in underserved regions further highlighted his commitment to equitable learning opportunities. Carter also left a mark on civil rights by advancing LGBTQ protections. His administration hosted discussions with gay and lesbian activists and lifted discriminatory bans within the U.S. Foreign Service, signaling a quiet but meaningful shift in federal attitudes. On the global stage, his presidency was defined by his relentless pursuit of peace and human rights. His crowning achievement, the Camp David Accords of 1978, ended decades of hostility between Egypt and Israel, reshaping the Middle East geopolitical landscape. Yet, his foreign policy was not without controversy. In Africa, Carter supported efforts to end conflicts in Rhodesia and Namibia, but U.S. backing for autocratic regimes in Zaire and Liberia raised questions about consistency. Similarly, his push for normalizing relations with China in 1979, cutting formal ties with Taiwan, was a strategic triumph marred by criticism over U.S. military aid to Indonesia during its occupation of East Timor. Carter's tenure took a dramatic turn with the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The U.S. Embassy in Tehran became the epicenter of an international crisis when 52 Americans were taken hostage following the Shah's admission to the U.S. for medical treatment. Despite tireless diplomatic efforts and a failed military rescue mission, the crisis overshadowed the final year of his presidency. The hostages were released moments after his successor, Ronald Reagan, took office, marking a bitter end to a grueling chapter. In his dealings with the Soviet Union, Carter's early emphasis on arms control gave way to a harder stance after the USSR's invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. The administration ramped up support for Afghan resistance fighters through Pakistan, initiating policies that would echo through future conflicts in the region. His presidency was a dynamic interplay of ambition and adversity. His progressive domestic reforms sought to uplift the underserved, while his foreign policy aimed to balance pragmatism with an unwavering commitment to peace. Though his legacy is a mosaic of triumphs and trials, his leadership reflected a deep conviction in the power of governance to improve lives and foster global stability. The 1980 presidential campaign was a challenging and contentious period for Jimmy Carter. His re-election strategy leaned heavily on critiquing his Republican opponent, Ronald Reagan. The Carter campaign sought to portray Reagan as prone to gaffes, disconnected from voters, and potentially dangerous as a leader, particularly emphasizing the risk of nuclear confrontation. Comparisons were drawn to Lyndon Johnson's 1964 campaign against Barry Goldwater, with Carter's team branding Reagan as a warmonger. In a legal and financial skirmish, Carter tried to block Reagan's campaign from receiving $29.4 million in federal campaign funds, arguing that conservative groups had already raised an excessive amount to support Reagan. The Federal Election Commission ultimately rejected Carter's challenge. Internally, Carter faced stiff opposition within his party, particularly from Senator Ted Kennedy, who ran a weaker-than-expected campaign for the Democratic nomination. Although Carter secured the nomination, Kennedy's criticism and lack of full endorsement at the Democratic National Convention further divided the party. The general election was dominated by issues such as the struggling economy, stagflation, the Iran hostage crisis, and Carter's perceived foreign policy shortcomings. Reagan's campaign capitalized on these issues, with a defining moment being the sole presidential debate where Reagan's rhetorical mastery and the phrase, "there you go again," resonated strongly with voters. Additionally, controversy emerged when it was revealed that Reagan's campaign had accessed classified documents used by Carter in debate preparation. Reagan's decisive victory, 489 electoral votes to Carter's 49, marked a turning point in American politics. The Republicans also gained control of the Senate for the first time since 1952. Despite his defeat, Carter pledged a smooth transition for the incoming administration. Post-presidency. Carter's post-presidency life was defined by diplomacy, humanitarian work, and advocacy. He founded the Carter Center in 1982, focusing on human rights, disease eradication, and democratic development worldwide. Notably, Carter played key roles in peace negotiations, such as the North Korea mission in 1994 and efforts in the Middle East. Throughout his post-presidency, Carter remained active in political discourse, offering support, criticism, or mediation across different administrations. His positions on Middle East policies, particularly regarding Israel and Palestine, sparked both praise and controversy. Carter's 2006 book, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid, stirred significant debate but highlighted his lifelong commitment to peace in the region. Carter's enduring contributions included significant humanitarian efforts, such as building homes with Habitat for Humanity and advocating for disaster relief. His advocacy extended to nearly eradicating guinea worm disease and promoting democratic values worldwide. Despite health challenges, including a cancer diagnosis in 2015, Carter continued teaching, writing, and participating in public life, cementing his legacy as a tireless advocate for global peace and human rights. Though often ranked as a below-average president, his domestic and foreign policy initiatives left a legacy that grew more respected over time. As he departed the White House, Carter prophetically told allies he believed history would judge him more kindly than voters had during the contentious 1980 election. What set Carter apart, however, was not just his time in office, but the extraordinary life he led afterward. He became a Nobel Peace Prize laureate in 2002, recognized for his tireless commitment to resolving conflicts and advancing democracy. These post-presidency accomplishments earned him near-universal praise, with many agreeing he was a better man than he was a president. In his later years, Carter continued to defy expectations. At 92, he attended the 2017 inauguration, setting a record as the oldest former president to do so. By 2019, he had become the longest-lived U.S. president, surpassing George H.W. Bush. When asked about his longevity, Carter attributed it to a good marriage, a sentiment reflective of his enduring partnership with Rosalynn Carter. Together, they celebrated a love story spanning over 7 decades, working side by side in their humanitarian efforts. On October 1st, 2024, Carter celebrated his 100th birthday in his beloved hometown of Plains. The festivities included a concert in Atlanta featuring musicians and celebrities, an F-18 Super Hornet flyover that he watched from his backyard, and a naturalization ceremony for 100 new citizens. Even as he reached this historic milestone, Carter remained humble, viewing his contributions as a continuation of his faith-driven mission to serve others. Carter's life came to a peaceful close on December 29, 2024, at his home in Plains, following a decision in early 2023 to enter hospice care. His passing, announced by his son James E. Carter III, was met with an outpouring of tributes. President Joe Biden described him as a man of principle, faith, and humility, while plans for a state funeral and a day of mourning underscored his enduring impact on the nation. Despite his presidency's mixed reviews, Carter's legacy as a peacemaker and humanitarian remains unparalleled. His lifelong commitment to human rights earned him accolades, including the Hoover Medal and the United Nations Prize in the field of human rights. Carter also left an indelible mark in cultural and academic spheres, from his Grammy-winning spoken-word albums to the historic naming of the USS Jimmy Carter submarine and the creation of the Jimmy Carter National Historical Park. He often said he wanted to be remembered not for his presidency, but for his contributions to peace and humanity. His journey from a small-town boy in Georgia to a global icon of compassion and resilience stands as a testament to a life well lived, a life that, even in its final chapter, continued to inspire a world in need of hope and leadership. Before you go, don't forget to join this channel to get access to exclusive perks. Click the link in the description to enjoy benefits like suggesting the next video topic, gaining early access to videos 48 hours before they're released, and much more. Your support helps us continue bringing you the stories of boxing's greatest. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more inspiring stories of incredible leaders and world changers. Drop a comment below, and make sure to check out our next story on other impactful figures who've made history. Explore the channel for even more captivating content. See you next time, and remember, your legacy starts today.